Hello and welcome to an Everyday Canines video. This is the Doggy Gourmet series where we look at making homemade healthy treats for our dogs. In this episode we're looking at golden paste gummies. So the concept behind the golden paste gummies is that we're using turmeric to make up a healthy treat that we can give our dogs daily. So our primary ingredient is turmeric. Now if you've ever looked into this you might hear the word golden paste. That's when you cook up your turmeric with other ingredients to create a paste that you can then feed on a daily basis. Turmeric is said to have anti-inflammatory properties, so therefore it's good for dogs with arthritis, recovering from injury. I tend to give it to my dogs purely because they are athletic dogs doing agility, so they potentially could get sore muscles at times without me knowing it. So this is just a little preventative to help keep them in top shape. The thing with golden paste is it's not necessarily that palatable to dogs. A lot of dogs are not that keen on its taste on its own. And when I used to make just a pure golden paste, I had to mix it with natural yogurt to get the dogs to eat it. And sometimes people mix it with peanut butter and other stuff. So this recipe makes them a really palatable treat, and also it makes it really easy to store and give to your dogs. And I've had no issues giving my dogs these gummies and them eating them straight off. They love them. So we start with our turmeric. We've got about 30 grams of turmeric in this dish, which is going to be our starting point. Going with our turmeric, we've got freshly ground black pepper. We'll do about a teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper. Pepper is said to enhance the properties of the turmeric and make it more powerful. So our setting agent for this recipe to make them into gummies is powdered beef gelatin. So if we look from a little tub, you can see it's all powdered beef gelatin. It's like a bit like tapioca. All right. Now you want to use powdered beef gelatin rather than the sheet gelatin which you can buy in shops, purely because the sheet gelatin you have to use so much in your recipe to get the consistency you need. You're going to be spending a huge amount of money. So it's much more economical to buy the powdered and from Amazon or online retailers and use it from there. It's really much more economical and you get a better gummy. I have used the sheet gelatin and it just can't get the same consistency as you can with the powdered. Now the thing with beef gelatin, which why we're using it as a setting agent, is not only does it make a nice firm gummy that you can keep in the fridge, but it contains collagen, because obviously it's been reduced down from a cow's joints. So it's got its own health benefits. You can feed this to your dogs, you can feed it to yourself as a way of helping maintain joints, and it's also supposed to have benefits for the gut. So there's a double whammy here. You're getting the turmeric free anti-inflammatory, but you're getting the beef gelatin to help boost up their joints as well. The other thing about beef gelatin is it is virtually fat-free, which means it's excellent for dogs that might be on a diet or that have to have extremely low fat food. So I've got a dog that has chronic pancreatitis. He couldn't have a lot of the ingredients that normally go into golden paste because they're too high fat. He can have this because it is virtually fat free. So you know when you're making this up that you're not going to be either making your dog fat or making them poorly. In addition, we've got our goat's milk. So we're using goat's milk here mainly as a flavouring to make the treats more palatable to the dogs. So obviously they've got the beef gelatin, that helps, but this will make them even more flavoursome. We use goat's milk, not cow's milk, because many dogs are intolerant to lactose in cow milk, but most can tolerate goat's milk really well. So this is whole goat's milk, but even so it is really low fat. You could obviously use semi, which would be even lower, but honestly this is low enough fat. I mean, my dog has to have under 3% fat and he can have this. So you know, that is not an issue. And as I say, it makes them taste nice. And our last ingredient, which is the dull and boring one, but is essential, is we've got water. Just basic water. And we're going to be using, to start with, roughly about 100 mils of water, but it all depends on how we get on. So we need moulds to set the gummies in because they're going to be like a really hard jelly. I use silica moulds, which I bought from Amazon, and I will be sharing the link in the comments of this video so you can get the same if you want. I've got a variety of shapes. These are my bone-shaped ones. I've also got paw prints. These are a nice size. To be honest, these are a nice size for any dog. If you had a really tiny dog, you might want to make smaller ones. But these bone-shaped ones, they work really well. And my dogs, they're between 7 and 12 kilos, the small ones. And I give 2 of these a day to them, 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening, because it's supposed to be more beneficial if you split their dose across the day. And as I said before, these treats are low fat, so it's not going to be made fat with them. My bigger dog, I would perhaps give more. But yes, so I use these moulds. They make a nice size and they just go in the dog's bowl. So if you are looking for your moulds, this is something to do. You can get different shapes, sizes, you know, all sorts of moulds. But this is what we're going to be using for our treats today. So we're going to start off by activating our turmeric, making it into a golden paste, heating it through so that it's ready to go into the gummies. So I'm turning my pan onto a low heat. So I'm just going to turn it on to because we're heating through, we're not boiling this, we're heating it through. Got about 100 ml of water. Now, the thing with the water when you put it in, you need to have a little bit left over because you may need to add to it as you go along. It's not an exact science. So you start with 100 ml, but you may need more. And we're adding in our turmeric just straight in. And all we're going to do is start stirring it around. And we want to heat it up. Now this is going to take about 7 or 8 minutes to heat it through. And what we want to happen is we want the turmeric that's now, if you imagine it, it's just like a soupy consistency. We want it to become a thick paste. So you'll see what happens as it warms up. I'm just going to turn the heat up a fraction more. But we don't want this to boil. We just want it to heat through gently. Okay, so this has now had about 6-7 minutes and you can see it's becoming a nice thick paste. So we're just going to let it, I've turned the heat down a fraction as I don't want it boiling, but obviously it's getting quite hot. I'm just going to cook it for a few seconds longer just to make sure it's activated. But you can see the difference that's been happened in that the original one was soupy and now this is literally a paste. So that is looking really good. So it's nearly had, it must have had about the right amount. Okay, so we're going to take that off the heat. And we're going to add our black pepper. So you want roughly a teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper. There you go. Mix that all in. Now we're going to put this to one side and let it cool while we're just doing our next bit because we don't want it being too hot. Right, so we didn't need the extra water that I had saved to one side, so that's gone. We've got a clean pan. We've got our jug, which we're going to now add in 125 millilitres of goat's milk. That goes into our pan. Now I have put this on the warm heat, which I probably shouldn't. I'll just put it off the heat because at this stage we don't want any heat going through. So we're putting it in our clean pan. Okay. So what we need to do now is sprinkle over our beef gelatin. And we want 3 tablespoons, but they're not heaped. If you see, they're quite flat. And we're going to sprinkle it over. Now we need to leave that to sit for 5 minutes and it starts to bloom. That's what they call it, starts to bloom. So we need to leave that for 5 minutes. So setting a timer. So our beef gelatin has sat on the milk for 5 minutes and you can see it's just started to start absorbing it, but not a lot. So it's just now ready for us to cook it. Now when we're cooking the beef gelatin, we do have to be careful with this. If you overcook it, it will become this horrible glumpy mess that you can't use. So we're going to put on a very low heat. And this is not going to take long at all. We only want to cook it until the point where all this powder has dissolved. So we'll start moving it around. So it's starting to get here. I'm just going to turn the heat down a fraction so I don't overcook it. You can see that there are still some tiny little bits there, but they're actually clear, and you can see that it's It's almost becoming like a very fine cream. So I would say that's just about there. We have still got some little tiny bits, but they actually have dissolved to a degree. They've become clear. So all the powder is dissolved. So we're going to turn the heat off and take it off the heat again. Now we're going to add in our golden paste. So the beef gelatin is already starting to set a little bit. So we need to mix this in really quick. And now we've got this lovely, bit like a curry paste it looks like. Okay, we need to bring in our moulds. So we've got the moulds, and the easiest thing to do is to just pour straight from the pan. Do it this way because I like to have a slightly bigger side. Okay, so that quantity has made 36 of the little bones, and it had a tiny bit left over, so I've just added them to one of my additional moulds. You can actually see it's actually starting to set already in some places where it's got thinner. But what we're going to do is we're going to pop it into the fridge for an hour to set properly, and then we'll be able to take them out of the moulds and put them into whatever container we want. So as you can see, 36, that's going to easily last me a week. These don't tend to last longer than a week in the fridge, so this is about the right sort of set of batch that I need. But obviously you can adjust quantities depending on how much you need. You can also store your paste. So for instance, if you didn't want to make 36 in one batch, you could halve your paste, store half of it either in the fridge, or you can even freeze it, and then make up the rest of the mix with the gelatin and the milk, obviously halving the quantities, and you'd get a smaller amount. You can't freeze the gummies. They don't go well frozen. They don't really come out of it well. Okay, so we're going to pop these in the fridge for an hour. So our golden paste gummies, they've been in the fridge for about an hour, and they're nice and firm. So we're now going to pop them out of their moulds, and they should come out really easily. Now hopefully you can see just how firm these are. So they're not like a wibbly wobbly jelly, they are really firm, and the dogs just love to eat them just straight off. So say these will last about a week in your fridge. So you need to make your quantities as and when you need each week. So there we have it, our lovely golden paste gummies, lovely doggy bones that our dogs not only going to enjoy eating, but are going to give them a good health boost to their joints and their muscles. And all good to go, ready for the week ahead. I hope you've enjoyed this Everyday Canines video, and I hope your dogs will enjoy this recipe. If you have enjoyed this, you might like to subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Facebook and Instagram pages. We've got lots of videos coming out all the time on different subjects related to dogs and dog training. And I hope to see you all again very, very soon.